Welcome to the Mother-Daughter-ish podcast. It's your mama's favorite podcast.
And the podcast your daughter always wanted.
This is Miss Dawn.
And Angelique.
From the 713. Houston, y'all. Get connected and stay connected weekly as new shows debut on Sunday, Wednesday, and please check out our Saturday Out and About showcases.
Enjoy the show. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and tell every woman on the planet that you know about our show.
Here's our show for today. Hey, mothers and daughters. So again, I'm continuing with my series on nomads and people who live all around the world that have moved from one place to the next. And I felt like I should give this, a 60-day run just to kind of get as many people as I can. I've got maybe about 20 more people to talk to. But today I am excited that I am getting a chance to introduce you to Miss Chai Jones, and she is going to tell us all about her. Now, I know if you've been watching the series, you have met so many amazing people. Well, guess what? You're meeting one more today. Hey, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that we could get our times together to be able to do this, because it's so difficult when you're in one country and in another country. We just got to get it together and make it happen like we did today, right? Yeah. So tell our audience where you originally are from and where you are now. If there was some maneuvering in the middle, please feel free to share that as well.
Again, let me just thank you for having me on the show and giving me this opportunity. I am originally from Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
And yes, there are Black people in Nebraska. I originally from Nebraska, but I've lived all over the United States, and I was living in Nashville for like 20 something years. I've lived in like Phoenix, Charlotte, all these different places.
You have really moved around. I love it.
I've been to 41, I believe, of the 50 states. I have lived in probably about 10 of them. And
wow.
And I always wanted to see the world, but I actually never even left the country until it was 2 days after my 33rd birthday. I moved to South Korea and I taught there. I was a university professor. I was living in Korea for like 3.5 years. I came back unabruptly and didn't have a plan to. I really was like, I'm never coming back to the United States.
Really?
But I was there 2009 to 2012, and then I took a break and was on vacation, getting ready to do my third contract, and I was going to head on collision. So that kind of shifted things. But what I had learned was that I still wanted to do international work, so I then went to grad school and studied intercultural communications and also international education. And so when I graduated, I knew that I'd already started something in Korea. I had a blog that had 10 bloggers, and I started this group, and it was growing rapidly. It was, expat women who lived in all over around the world.
Right.
And so I was cultivating that. And so I ended up turning that into a nonprofit. And then I was working with students and helping them do study abroad, because at that time, it was, a very small, like 4.8% of African Americans were studying abroad. So I was really pushing that initiative. And then I kind of got stuck in America, and I started doing relocation. So I became a relocation consultant for some Fortune 500 companies, where I was helping them
You froze a little bit.
move their expats.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't want to be here. And so at that particular time, I just kind of focused in on the work. I still traveled, but I was still living abroad. Then I moved to DC from Nashville, and I started working with an international company. And so I managed the learning and development for the organization. and I got to travel to like London and Paris and things like that, but I still wasn't international.
Right.
Then I got laid off in 2019, and
Hmm.
then I had a child a couple months later, and then the pandemic happened in 2020, and so a lot was happening. And during the pandemic, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were describing their pandemic situation, and I was like, my life didn't change. So I knew it was kind of shifted things and you had to go to the grocery store different and all of these things. But
Hmm.
my life, I was a stay-at-home mom, and so I was taking care of my child. But for the most part, and then maybe that's why I didn't see the shift because I was already staying at home.
Right,
And
right.
so, but I still went places, and I actually went to Mexico
Me,
during the pandemic,
me too.
and I was there for 7 days. And I just remember like, I live here. I don't know why, but I can live here. And so I went back home and then I started doing some research and I found a place I felt like I would be comfortable in. And I
Hmm.
moved to Mexico in 2021, like May
Which
actually.
part of Mexico?
I lived in Merida.
Okay.
So in
Yeah,
the
I've been there.
Yucatan.
Okay.
And so I was there for 3 years. Loved it. And then last year I ended up moving here to Malaysia. So I'm currently in Kuala Lumpur.
I've been there and I loved it there. I really did. I stayed for 2 weeks and I was like, you know what? I like it here. That's wonderful. So, when you got ready to go to Malaysia, what was the thought process? Was it a long part of research or was it, your job led you there? Because you've been so many places, how did you choose there? And how long have you been there?
So well, 10 months.
10
Yeah,
months.
because it'll be a year in April.
Okay.
Um, and so I had been here before when I lived in Korea. I came here
Hmm.
on vacation for a week
Hmm.
and I loved it then, but I still was like, there's something missing. And so honestly, I wasn't intending on moving to Malaysia. I was intending to move to Thailand.
Okay.
And they have a burning season, and I was like, my lungs can't take it, and I don't even want to be there during that time. So I basically just planned to come to Malaysia until the end of the burning season, and then keep it moving to Chiang Mai.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I was traveling with someone else, and then they got antsy, and they were like, "Well, I think we should just stay here." And I was like, "No problem, I can make anything work." And so it was, the visa would have been easier. Then getting the children in school, if that's what I'm going to do, would have been easier. And so I just made it home. And that's basically how I got to Malaysia. It wasn't a plan for Malaysia. And at the time, I had made a decision to come to or go to Thailand probably in February.
Hmm.
And so I just basically put that together and kept it moving. But I also tell people I do this work for a living. So relocating people or moving is not a big deal for me. Once I make a decision, I can pretty much make that happen in 30, 60, or 90 days. And that's what I did.
That's awesome. So now when you did this final move and you're in Malaysia, did you move there with a lot of your family other than your child? Are you already married? Like what was that situation? Because there's two things that women always tell me they're concerned about making a move. One is the dating scene if they're not married or if their spouse is going to want to move there. And then the next thing is work. So let's talk about when you moved to Malaysia, did you move there on your own or did you come with a family?
So I have two by myself with my son, and that's my middle school, that's 5 now. And my husband is
Um, it's all muffled, so I can't. Yeah, it's not working. Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Still,
mm-mm. No, it's like there's a lot of echo, and it sounds like like that. It's not clear at all.
um, trying.
You want to unplug it and just use the microphone from the computer?
Yeah.
Because I would love to know. Because I'm telling you, those are the two things that I hear women say they're concerned about. Because I meet women all over the globe, and a lot of women from America that want to move to, especially Americans, want to move to different places abroad, and they are just so concerned about a couple things that I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to talk to the people that have already done it because people need to hear that it may not be exactly what they think, that it may not be as difficult, or it could just be. And I've so far gotten so many wonderful stories where women have not had a real issue with those two things. So, okay, now you were saying you moved there
Okay.
just for your son?
Yeah, so can you hear me now?
Perfect, perfect. Yes, very
Okay.
clear.
All right. So yes, I moved here with my son. At the time he was 4. He is
Okay.
currently 5.
Hmm.
And I had a friend that lives in Mexico. At the time we lived in Mexico, and she had a daughter that's a couple months older than my son. So we decided to move together. So she has her own place. I have my own place.
Okay, that's good.
Um and so we have two different styles of living and all of that. And at first we had considered like, oh, we could kind of like get a big place. And then I was like, I can't do it.
Right,
Can't
right.
do it. Just because, we
Yeah, you
think
just want,
differently and we move differently, right?
yeah.
So it's just the two of us. And then I'm not married, so I'm a single mom
Okay,
with a 5-year-old.
okay.
Um, but no, I never had any concerns or felt like safety is an issue. I normally kind of like look at the place to be like, okay, is it safe? Do I feel safe?
Yeah,
That's why I lived in Merida because I knew that that was one of the safest places in the
yeah.
world to live. Um, but moving here, I kind of like I already had been here before. I felt safe. And
Mhm.
actually, I feel even safer now than I did at that time. And that was like 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
And so, yeah, but dating,
Yeah, what's
that's
a dating
funny.
scene like?
Um, so I don't really focus on dating because I feel like, when I'm a vibrational match for someone,
Mhm.
then I'm gonna meet them and they'll show up. I
Okay.
did have a date, like when I first moved here, I had a date and I was like, and the date went wonderful. And then there was a second date and I was like, this is not my person. And so kind of like left it at that. And then I was like, you
Is
know
that
what?
a person who already lived in Kuala Lumpur, or were they also someone who moved over?
So they actually were from London. They
Okay.
were Jamaican from London and had lived in London for like 24 years. And they were cool, but I was like, this is not gonna work. And so it was nice to have met someone
Mhm.
that was also like Black, had similar experiences and things like that. However, it just wasn't gonna, work. And I'm not don't mind it. I'm open to dating. However, I'm also like, listen, that was not my focal point of, making the move, nor is it my focal point while living abroad, because if I'm going to meet somebody, I'll meet somebody. And I have met a couple different people. I went to Thailand. I met someone. They were
Mhm.
nice. I still speak to them, but, I'm not focused on like, oh, I need to be dating at
Okay,
this
good.
particular point.
That's good because a lot of women will tell me that like I say, those are the two top concerns. Now let's go with the second one. Work. What do you do for work? And was it easy for you to transition that work to another location? Because I mean, it sounds like you've lived in a lot of different places, and so tell me what you do for work so that people will understand. Because most people say, well, if I quit the job that I have here because it doesn't transfer over. And I know people talk all about these work from home jobs or whatever, but I hear women saying they can't find them. And I'm like, well, I can't help you because I've been working from home since 1996. So I'm kind of was doing it before it was even popular. So what do
hmm
you do for work?
so I'm an expat coach.
Okay.
I have a master's in intercultural communication. So I was working with relocation companies moving people abroad
Okay.
already. I've been doing that for this would be my 16th year.
Okay.
And I'm also transitioning and working with more women who want a softer life, who
Yeah.
are going on sabbatical. So that's my primary work. Um, and so I do that, and I also do event consulting. So I've, worked with a lot of different conferences and things like that. But for work, I it is a no-brainer for me because I help people move abroad. So I actually do this work for a living
Mhm.
and trained. I've been doing it for Fortune 500 companies
Mhm.
since 2015. And I'm a certified life coach as well. So I just kind of meshed what I was doing corporately
Yes.
into helping more self-initiated expats who are trying to figure out where they want to go, what they want to do, and how to make it happen. So, so it kind of like fits with everything.
It really does. Now, you mentioned something and it just brought up a question in my head, and you said you help with a lot of different conferences. Is Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a place where there are a lot of um women focused conferences for women in business or women empowerment, or are there big conferences there for that?
There are, and
Look,
it's
I'm asking because I'm going
based.
to look it up because the last time I was there was in 2014 or 15 or something, and I was traveling because I was doing leadership certifications for the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, and they have a foundation that sits at one of the Pepperdine College, and I trained all around the world, and that's how I ended up going to Malaysia because I was training for them
Hmm.
and with the Think and Grow Rich principles. And so I was just always curious because at that conference it was a pretty big deal because it was the 100 year, I think, of Think and Grow Rich, and we had Deepak Chopra there and some other people. And I just always wondered, I said, I wonder if I'll ever get to go back to Malaysia and get on a stage. So when you said that, I went, wait a minute, I wonder.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, there's a lot of personal and professional development organization like Mind Valley. A lot of people are really
I've heard of
familiar with Mind Valley. They're located here in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, in Bangsar.
it.
But yeah, there's a lot of different organizations that are constantly doing things. And
Awesome.
Kuala Lumpur, as well as Malaysia, is like a hub for the Southeast Asia as
Yeah.
far as tourism. So last year they actually was number one, I believe, in tourism and want to kind of increase that this
Yeah.
year.
Okay, I'm gonna have to start getting on some lists and finding out about different speaking engagements. I was in Singapore in 2023 on my way over to Thailand for 30 days, and somebody said, "Oh, a flight from Singapore is only like 30 minutes or something." I was sitting there thinking like, okay, wait a minute. We got 2 days. Like I said, I don't have enough time, but man, I sure wanted to take the ladies I was with over to Malaysia because I had already bragged about it to them and told them what a good time I had. And I was like, we're this close. And they kept saying, we don't know when we're going to get back to this side of the world. I'm like, we'll just have to make a real appointment to do it. Now, since you've been there, because I know you said you're from Nebraska, and I thought that was so funny when you said, yes, Black people do live in Nebraska, but that's a real thing. People don't think that. So we're not trying to be funny. That really is a real thing. Let's talk about food in Malaysia. What's your favorite food that you've had over there that was not really top of mind before you moved to that end of the world? Do you have a favorite food that you're now like, you know what? I kind of like this.
Say I have a favorite food. Like I'm a foodie, and so food is really important to me. But um, okay, so the unique thing about Malaysia is that they have three different groups that make up the population
Yes.
for the country. So you have your Malay,
Yep.
and you have Indian, and you have Chinese. And so with that, you're going to have those different types of food. And I really love Indian food anyways.
Mhm.
Um, Chinese, I've never like really got into Chinese food. I mean, it's rice and some meat and some vegetables, right?
Mhm.
But um, there are some different dishes like uh, what is it? It's I can't even think. Salted egg. I like that. I didn't think I was like, what is this? But I've gone to some Chinese restaurants and they've had some salted egg, like prawns and things
Mhm.
like that. So that's actually really good. But I really love Indian, and so I eat a lot of Indian food. I love eat a lot of Thai food. Um, Malay food is good. I just don't go seek it out. But I love the flavors because it has coconut stuff in it. Now, what I have found is like a lot of anchovies is in a lot of the food that they make, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I like all of the food, but I
Cool.
stick with a lot of the Indian food.
Okay.
So.
Now, I know you said that your son is 5 years old. How is he adjusting to the life? I know he's kind of like, they can be molded very easily when they're that young, but is he in public school, private school, homeschool? How are you handling the education part for your baby?
Yeah, so he's homeschooled. He did go to school for a period of time in Mexico, but he's lived outside the country since he was 18 months old. So he doesn't even remember living in America. He knows where it is. He knows that he's from Virginia. He knows that he's been there several times,
Mm.
but you know, he's he adapts very well. Like listen, he got a globe. He's like, okay, so we going where? And so we just came back from Indonesia. So he's like, okay, I was in Indonesia and I've been to Bali and, did this and he really his favorite airport is Doha. So like
Me and your
and
son
he'll
could
tell
be
you,
friends. We could be friends because Doha's my favorite airport. I was there last month in the Middle East and I was like, okay, now I'm judging these airports. I thought Singapore's airport was my favorite, but now Doha, but I like Doha, so I think I'm a little biased because I
mm,
do like the Middle East. And I know we've been propagandized in the US about Middle East people, and I keep telling folks, shut up and book a ticket with me and come see for yourself because y'all almost lost me. I almost stayed there because I had such a great time.
loves it. Yeah,
I'm
it's
it's
pretty.
it's pretty, it's nice. I didn't have any issue. Everybody was so nice and welcoming and warming, and the shopping was wonderful. The food was wonderful. My hotel was, I mean, like, I have not one complaint. And of course, the airport is lovely. So it's like, can't wait to go back.
It's like a little city.
It is. It really, really is. So now we've talked about the dating scene. We've talked. Oh, now let me ask you, when it came to the dating, was it an organic meeting or was it online? I don't know any of the whatever the online stuff. I'm not
The
on.
first person I met was online. And I don't do online dating well. So I was like, okay, why am I doing this anyway? So yeah, I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
The second person I met at like a meetup in Thailand. So it was just the organic sitting at the same table, having a conversation, and then we just became really cool and continued talking. And they don't actually live in Thailand. They live in the US. So now we just talk, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that you mentioned that about meetups because that was going to be my next segue. I was going to go into was going to be community, how are you building community where you are? And not just for you, but you have a 5-year-old as well. So of course there's a such thing as play dates and all that other stuff. So how are you
Mhm.
community where you are? Because your family from the US is not there. So how are you building community there?
Yeah, so I'm a community builder. Like no matter where I go, I'm gonna build a community. I've built a community in Merida. I've built a community when I lived in Korea. I have an online community. It's called Expat Women of Color that I've had for over 16 years. And we have about 7,000, almost 7,000 people who are in the group. But I just started my own
Say
community
what
because
it's
I
called
didn't
again?
see called
Expat.
Expat Women of Color.
Okay, I want to make sure I put that in the description so people can join. Okay.
And I also have started a Brothers and Sisters of Kuala Lumpur group. So we have about 90 people who are in the group. A lot of them are transit. So whenever they come through, they're like, hey, what's going on? So we do things like we've had Friendsgiving, we've done like Christmas stuff, we did game night, Sunday dinners, things like that. So when people come to Kuala Lumpur and they look us up, we
Yeah.
also have a WhatsApp group so that people can, connect and see what's going on. But during like the holidays, it's, because a lot of people come through KL, maybe they're coming through Thailand or Bali or uh oh no, Taiwan. So they'll stop over, and a lot of people will connect during that time that they're traveling through. But then we do have people who actually live here, and we'll get together, have meetups, and we also connect just like I also do events. So I have a dining with friends event that I started, and I had a dinner the other night, and there was a young lady who is kind of traveling, doing like a remote year,
Yes.
and she's doing it on her own with her family. So she has two children and her mother with her. And so she came out to the dinner. And so I get to meet some of the people and connect as they're traveling through, if they're considering living here. Like I have clients that are moving, and they hire me to like find their housing and things like that. So then they're also part of the community. So yeah, community, I think I suggest everybody connect, even if you like. I'm an introvert, and people don't believe me, but I think even if you're an introvert, you need community, especially if you don't have a family and you're traveling alone. You need other people that you can like look at and be like, okay, you're similar to me, and maybe we didn't come from the exact same place, but we have a connectivity, and it it serves well because every day is not a happy day living abroad just because you live abroad, right? And there are a lot of fabulous things that come with living abroad. But then there are lonely moments, and there are things like you miss home, or nostalgia moments like it's Christmas and you're away from your family and things like that. So I think that you should build community, you should get involved with community, and at least know where your people are. And I think you should just have your own tribe. So with my son, he has friends, even though he's not in school. Like I'm connected to one of the teachers who teaches at the international school, and she has a son. They're like maybe 9 months apart. And so they have play dates, and she also, helps watch him sometimes if I have an event, things like that. So that's extremely important. I do have a couple more little boys that I'm part of a couple of organizations, and there are some little boys. And I found here there were actually more little boys for him to play with and connect with than when I lived in Mexico, because it was a whole bunch of little girls.
Mhm.
So I think it's extremely important to kind of find your people, and then once you kind of get a groove, you know who you can trust, you know who's going to be, a solid person.
Right, yeah.
Biggest thing about living abroad is a lot of people are transit. So they're only going to be here for 6 months, or maybe they've been here for 3 years, and now you meeting them at the tail end of their contract, or maybe they're just nomadic family. And so they're constantly moving around. But the funny thing is I've met a lot of people that I knew in Mexico who
Hmm,
have come through and like, hey, I met you, da 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 da. And I'm like,
that's
oh
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I remember that. So so that's the good thing about traveling, that even though it's a huge world, there's 200 some odd countries in the world,
Mhm.
there are ways to connect to people, and that like that 6 degree of separation
Mhm.
dwindles, right? And you get like a 2 degree separation because people are traveling and people watch people on videos, or they've been in this group and they're like, oh, I know this person that lives here, and they connect you. So it becomes a lot easier, and you get to know a lot more people in the span of time of your travels.
That is so awesome. You have just everything that you have answered is so perfect because I just really want other women to know because they talk to other folks who haven't done it and they get all the wrong answers, I feel. But to speak with some
Mm.
yourself and others that have done it and that have the experience, and I love the way you are building community. That is just super, super important. I mean, I'm quite impressed, I have to tell you. And hey, you know what? The next time I'm in Malaysia, I'm looking you up in your group.
Come on,
I'm
come
serious
on,
because I have a travel
break bread.
I have a travel group of ladies. We're all 50 and older, and we travel the world together. We go about 3 times a year. And whenever we go to other countries, we always find a meetup group or a women's business group or some group that we could connect with. And so we can talk about different things. So that's a part of what I made as this is what we're doing with this travel group. We're not just going to go to these places, but I want to connect and continue to build globally because I've traveled by myself for so many years. And when I put this group together 3 years ago, it was like, okay, y'all. We're called the International Ladies of Purpose. We got to have some purpose in this other than travel. And because I like to network and I like to meet women and I like to talk to folks, it's like, okay, I have to do this as I'm traveling because I love being global. I love being international. I love just knowing all types of people. When's the last time you've gotten an opportunity to go back home up to Nebraska?
In October. So I actually went to the US in October for a month and dropped my son off in Virginia. That was the first time we've been separated. So
Mhm.
he saw his father, and then I actually went to a couple different places and I ended up in Nebraska for like about a week or so. Hung out with my mom, and my sisters, and then I went back to DC, picked him up, and then we headed back to Malaysia. So
And I have a final question here. Since you've been in Malaysia, do you still have that same oomph for it that you had when you moved there? Or do you think there's another stop ahead at some point?
um So, okay, I like having stability and a home base.
Yes.
But at the core of who I am, I'm a traveler. But I also, so my business is based on transformational travel, right? I'm not that person who wants to go and do a whole bunch of sightseeing. If there's something I want to see, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna see it. But I want to experience the place and I want to experience people and I want to make connections and things like that. So for me, I love being here. Will I say this is my forever home? No, I don't think that. I love a lot about it. I wouldn't mind having this as one of my homes. Um, but I don't think I found that place that like resonates. So I just came back from Bali like a couple days ago,
Mhm.
and I absolutely love Bali. I love the vibe, but I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out the livability. Like, I don't know that I saw like is it my place? Like, there's a thing, like, I have a friend, she jokes, she's like, no, that's not a Child Jones place. She's like, it's not
'Cause
upscale enough. And I'm like, oh,
you probably got to feel it in your soul and know that, wait a minute, this is
yes.
right. Because that's me. I have to know that I know that I know. And there's no question about anything. It has to like hit my soul, and my soul says, that's it.
And
So
that's how I have to be. So I felt that way in Bali. I felt like, oh, this is it speaks more to my spirit. I also felt that in Thailand, and I do astrocartology where you look at your birth chart and it tells you like what lines or what places would actually suit you better based off of like if you're looking for love or if you want to start a business
and
or
I need to figure
you
out how to do that because that's right up my alley. Because I get people,
yeah.
you think you're gonna ever date again? And I'm just like, well, I want it has to be organic, but I have to know that I know that I know. And I think that I like what you said in the beginning. You're gonna know your person. Like you say, you're gonna know whatever you're supposed to know. I want to just be able to know that's my person. And it has to speak to my soul. I can't force it. I can't just say it out of my mouth just because it seems like a good idea at the time. My spirit will have to speak to me because that's just how particular I am.
Absolutely. But based off of this astrology, it will direct you. So and I have tested it like, okay, it
Is
says
this
I'm
something
on such and
everybody can
such
do or
line.
only a specialist?
Um, anybody can look up like lines. Will you know what it means? Probably not.
Okay.
So you have to kind of know astrology and know what planets represent this, that, or other, and then kind of do a deeper dive. So I help with my clients who are kind of like really know where I want to go. I just know I want to leave. I want to do this, but I like this place. And they like it based off of something that they saw on Travel Channel, right? They don't know it. And then when you land somewhere, there's a different feeling for every place. And
Right.
so I try to encourage them to do a chart so that they can see, number one, like if you are at a place in life where maybe you want to retire, then it's a good chart to do because then you're not throwing darts and you're not going based off of, oh, well, I've been there once and I was visiting. Because I tell people all the time, traveling somewhere and living somewhere are two very different things,
That's right.
two very different things.
Yeah.
And so you may have liked that experience traveling, but until you live there and you have day in, day out interactions,
Right.
baby, that ain't the same. So I encourage them to do the chart because maybe there's a place they haven't even really thought about. Like, for instance, I never thought about Thailand as a place for me to go, but my line actually is directly on Chiang Mai. And the energy, it will go all the way over to Bangkok. So
Mhm.
getting into Thailand, I feel at peace. Um, it's a great place for me to meet someone. It's a great place for me to do business. It's a great place for me for beautification and,
Mhm.
just being my authentic self. And so immediately I met someone, we had a great conversation and, I'm real woo woo. So
Yeah,
he had started asking me questions about astrology and I was like, oh, well, give me your birthday. And so he gave it to me and I put it in one of my charts and I was like, what? Because it came up soulmate. And I was like, oh, shoot. But the conversation was really easy.
yeah.
I had never, I really wasn't thinking about he's physically, if I'm looking at him, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's my type, right? I
Right.
would just, be like, oh, he's a nice person. But
Yeah.
as we talked, and then once he gave me that information, I was like, okay, it makes sense because like it was seamless. We just like the conversation was really, really easy.
Hmm.
But everything that happened in Bangkok while I was there, it just was easy for me. Like things that there's sometimes you find bumps or little agitations or whatever, but everything, the people were so nice. My experience, like people who, were traveling with me that they came like a day or two after, they experienced something totally different. They were like, why is it so hard that every time I come into Thailand? And I was like, oh, I didn't experience none of that because that's my place, right?
That's
And
your.
so there are different places for different people based off of their birth chart
Mhm.
and what they are looking for at that particular point. So if you find a Venus placement, that's going to be a place where things are beautiful. You might attract love. You're going to look a lot
So,
more attractive to other people. If you're looking for money and career and building a business, you probably want to be on your Jupiter line.
mhm.
If you want to be in the hustle and aggressive, you probably, want to find something closer to your Mars line. If you're doing transformational work, if
Yeah.
you will be closer to your moon line. So there are different lines.
Mhm.
And once you understand it, and like I do charts where it will give me all the, excuse me,
Mhm.
different aspects in that particular area. So, based off of your birth chart, you may have a combination. You may have Jupiter, your sun, your moon, and there's some different things going on. So, it may be a good place
Mhm.
temporarily. So it'll show you like if you're traveling to this place,
Okay.
temporarily this might be a good place. Or if you're traveling, this might not be a great place. You're gonna find a lot of different roadblocks and you know things that may like hinder certain like the smoothness of that travel. But
Mhm.
then it'll give you the long chart where it'll tell you, okay, this would be a good place and you may be more attractive and you may find that people are more accommodating. Like here, this is where my sun sign is. So
Mhm.
my sun sign runs through Malaysia, a little bit east. And so
Mhm.
you get about a 200 to 300 mile radius
Okay.
that will give that same effect.
Yeah.
So in Kuala Lumpur, it runs directly through that line. So things are easy here for me. It's easy for me to meet people and things like that. And so I don't have any real issues here. Um, and so, I do that as well. And I
That's
think
what
that
you
makes it a lot easier.
I think out of every person that I've spoken with to date, that is the most unique way to be able to do it. Now, I've done my own personal birth charts, and I've been into astrology since I was literally 6 years old. But I've always looked at it for money. I've always looked at it for love. I've never thought about the birthplace and where I never thought about that. That is pretty unique.
Yes, a whole sign.
Big
And I
thing
think
to know.
because
Wow.
I've loved astrology all my life.
Too. I
Um,
have always loved it. I have so many books that I've read. And the scary part is I remember a particular astrology thing that I did when I was in my 20s, and I tell you, I'm 52 now, and every single thing has come to pass in there. And I was telling my daughter about it because my daughter's 24 and she's way into astrology. Like she can tell you the house, she can tell you that. She comes to me and tell me stuff, and I'm just like, yes, daughter, I know. She is so into it, and she naturally got into it. And I was like, yep, that was definitely me when I was a kid. So I absolutely get it. Well, I think that's very unique, Miss Chime. You have really, really inspired me just on so many different levels today. Would you like to leave our audience with any kind of message, or we want to know where they can find you online, and just give us information so that people can get to you and they may want you to do their chart?
Absolutely. So, and I'm actually about to do a YouTube on astrocartology so
Okay.
that people can have a better understanding. Because I have people come to me and there's like, well, I know I need to be in Italy. And I'm like, I pull it up and I'm like, you're going to have a hard time in Italy.
Well, if you
However,
need a guinea pig, call me.
but you might want to consider these places based off of what you're trying to do. And you have some people who just feel like, I love this place, right? Or, people who just, I don't know where I want to be. I just know that I don't want to be where I currently am. And so I kind of help them with that. But you can find me on YouTube, just my name, Cha Jones. That's my channel. And I talk about lifestyle, travel, and I'm moving more into the spiritual realm of mindset and helping people, specifically women over 40,
Mhm.
who are trying to, yes, I'm on a video. Thank you. Okay, I'll be back.
So,
Thank you. So he wanted to tell me about Indonesia being in a natural disaster.
oh, really? Wow. Okay.
It's a game he plays.
Oh, okay.
Um, But what was I saying? So literally, helping women over 40 who are, want to have a softer life. Maybe they're going through burnout or they're looking at moving abroad
Yes.
so that they can just decrease the stress that they're going through.
Mhm.
So that's primarily who I'm working with at this particular point. And so looking at astrology, looking at different methodologies to kind of help people like really step into their authentic self. So I do a
Mhm.
lot of human design stuff and all the what they consider woo woo or professional and personal development.
Yeah.
But so Cha Jones on YouTube,
Okay.
my website, I'm rebranding, so that's currently down, but I do have a link tree and it's in my description in my YouTube. It's
Okay.
also, I have Instagram. Everything that I do on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube is all under Cha Jones.
Okay.
And, I'm currently working on my flagship mini retreat, which is going to be April 5th and 6th of
Okay.
this year. So, and people don't even have to leave. It's going to be at home. So it's going to be
Wonderful.
virtual. And if you're burnt out, if you're trying to figure out what do I do next, or if you're considering living abroad, you don't have a plan per se, you haven't figured out work, things like that, it's a great time to come mastermind that and get some clarity so that you can move forward. So,
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Miss Child Jones. I'm so thankful that you gave me the time that you gave me today. And I'm so thankful that we were able to connect. And just thank you for saying yes to allowing me to interview you. And I know that we're going to cross paths again because you got a good energy and I like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out. And I'm glad that we were able to connect. It does sound like we have some synergy. So anything I can help you with, please feel free to ask. And I'm here to support. And, if you need another video or just want to talk, give me
Well,
a shout.
trust me, I'll be circling back around with a surprise. So just keep me in mind. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Enjoy your day.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.